here we are now with LQAS results after the end of year number 3. And we now see some great performance improvement. Why? None of the supervision areas are anymore under the average coverage, and none of the supervision areas are anymore under our annual target of 60% for year number 3. In fact, the average coverage is calculated at 60%, which is where the annual target was established for year number 3. This is telling our program managers that supervision areas D and E are no longer priorities, and most likely they were able to implement these strategies and tactics used in supervision areas A and B in order to increase their performance in such a way that they are all above the average coverage and above the annual target of 60% for year 3. The message to our local managers is to continue with the activities as is, with no further changes in the strategy or tactics being used. At this pace, most likely the target of 3 quarters set for year number 4, that is at the end of the project, should be achieved. This was the analysis of results for one indicator: percentage of children under 2 years of age who slept under an insecticide-treated net the previous night. As projects have more than one indicator, let's take a look now at another example with more indicators. You may recall from the previous lecture that we used this example to show how to calculate average coverage rates for the entire program area for 3 particular indicators. But it also shows results at the supervision area level, so we can identify which supervision areas should be our priority. This table shows results from a baseline survey, so it tells local managers which areas should be prioritized in terms of allocating more resources for project activities related to breastfeeding promotion, knowledge of signs of childhood illness that indicate the need for treatment, and feeding practices during a childhood illness. In this particular example, we see that for indicator number 1, percentage of children under 6 months who are exclusively breastfeeding, supervision area number 4 should receive our highest priority, as it is below the average coverage. For indicator number 2, percentage of mothers of children under 6 months of age who know at least 2 signs of childhood illness that indicate the need for treatment, our highest priority should go for supervision area 5, as this particular supervision area is falling below the average coverage. And lastly, for this indicator number 3, the percentage of sick children aged 0 to 5 months who received increased fluids during an illness in the past 2 weeks, our highest priority areas should be supervision area 2 and supervision area 4, as they both fall below the average coverage. Let's take a look at another example with a few more indicators. This is an interesting summary table that was also shown in the previous lecture when we were showing how to calculate coverage estimates for the entire program area. That is, by aggregating all the supervision areas and their total number of correct responses and dividing that by the total sample size, which is, again, aggregating sample sizes from all 6 supervision areas. As this particular summary table shows quite a lot of information for local supervisors, it helps them to make informed decisions. First, you may notice that the sample size vary a lot by supervision area. And this is in fact what real life is in the field, as we collect data for different indicators in which we will not always have the optimal size of 19 per supervision area. Let's take a look at this particular indicator number 2, the percentage of children aged 0 to 23 months with diarrhea in the past 2 weeks who received oral rehydration therapy. As you can see, we have an average coverage of 71.3% for the entire program area, which help us to determine the decision rule, which for this case is going to vary based on the sample size per supervision area. As you can see, in supervision areas 2 and 3, those will become our highest priority for this particular indicator, as they both fall below the decision rule for the average coverage. The previous examples highlighted one of the major advantages of LQAS, which is how to improve the performance of services at the local level. It helped us to decide if performance is satisfactory or not, which is often sufficient for day-to-day management. It also helped us to flag problems, to identify problems, and provide focus for action. And it also allows managers to decide how best to allocate limited resources for quality improvement, mostly helping us how to allocate resources to improve low performance and not to waste limited resources in trying to improve performance where it is already adequate. On the other hand, LQAS has some limitations. Mostly, it does not provide precise estimates of performance due to the small sample sizes used at the supervision area level. We cannot determine the precise coverage unless we aggregate, unless we combine all the number of correct responses, and we are only able to calculate the average coverage for the entire program area, but not at the supervision area level. Also, LQAS is not equally sensitive to detecting all priority performance levels, as it emphasizes on the high priority areas. Lastly, LQAS cannot tell us how to prevent problems. LQAS results in poor performance areas will require follow-up in order to identify the root causes of the problem.